we find ourselves at the start of a new year. We are now a quarter of the way into the 21st century, a quarter of the way into the third millennium of the Common Era. And as most of us in this room, all of us really, were born in the 20th century, it's interesting to think about how much time has passed so quickly. Today we have so much to celebrate. The first Sunday of a new year. The final day in our season of Christmas, as it is Epiphany Sunday. This time that we have set aside to celebrate the Magi, the wise men who brought their gifts. And our scripture today touches on the deep importance of the king that they came to honor. All the wording of that passage in John you just heard is so interesting. It makes you think. It reminds us how difficult it is to comprehend the very nature of God. You can read that scripture again and again and find your mind going in a different direction each time as you ponder what was written. And sometimes we focus so much on the nature of the Son, his relationship with the Father, on the talk of creation and the formation of the world in this passage that we don't always give proper attention to another important piece in this text. This passage in John contains something very profound and beautiful. Something that when you think about it tugs at the heart when you realize its meaning. Anybody ever decides to become an author, anyone ever decides to write stories, I'll give you a big hint on something that can really affect your reader, really hit them emotionally, hit them where they feel, as one of my students used to say. That really makes me feel. Find a story of adoption. Now, it was never my cup of tea, but if you've ever been familiar with the Anne of Green Gables books, there's a very good example right there. Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, a brother and sister, who are older, are looking to adopt a boy. Now, of course, they're going to feed him and raise him and see that he's educated. But they also need help around the farm. Due to a mix-up, they get Anne instead. And their lives and the lives of their neighbors and the entire community change, eventually for the better, for knowing her. They find such growth even in their older years as they come to understand the orphan girl who has been thrust into their lives. Like I said, I didn't read the whole series, but I know enough of the story to know how moving it is, how touching it is. Adoption stories and stories of family that are found or chosen can get us very emotional and invested. And when you talk about that kind of thing, you're always going to get the person, oh, well, that's a story for little girls to read. That's a story for kids. You know, of course that's going to be I don't know about that. Well, let me tell you, you can find it everywhere. You can find it in comic books, in superhero stories. What's one of the most compelling and interesting things about Superman? The fact that he flies around Metropolis and jumps over buildings, but comes home for Sunday dinner. Goes into Mom and Dad's place and wipes his shoes as he goes into the Kent's homes and sits down at the table. Has a meal with Mom and Dad, his adopted parents. Where would Batman be without Alfred, the faithful family servant, the loyal, intelligent butler that became his father when he was orphaned? And how many stories and movies have been done about that relationship that can be very compelling, very moving? You can find stories like that in every genre you can think of. Even our Bible is full of stories like this. Pharaoh's daughter in the Nile with her handmaidens when that little basket came by. She didn't have to keep that baby. She could have let them have it. It was an Israelite. She could have let them have it. And she not only said, no, I'm going to keep him, and he's under my protection. I'm going to raise him as my son. Esther, for all the good that she did, for the role that she played, her story begins as she is living with Mordecai, who is her cousin who has taken her in, who loves her like a daughter, who guides her through her own journey, and in return she saves not only him from death, but their entire people. And it's not just small children, it's not just the young. Adoption can happen at any age. look at the crucifixion as John is standing there and he's told, take care of Mom. Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. John, take care of Mom for me. It's powerful. Adoption, surrogate parentage, the taking of someone into care as if they were your own. It touches us deeply to see such love. And we see this same kind of love in John's Gospel. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. Biblical scholars can, and probably will, spend the rest of their time debating the nature of God. The parts that the Son, the parts that the different parts of the Trinity played in the creation and the foundation of earth. But heaven help us if we ever forget that this passage also contains our adoption papers. The reminder that through Christ, we have the opportunity for a personal and loving relationship with God, as a child with a parent, as a dependent with a caretaker. The reminder that it does not matter who our ancestors were or weren't. No more would you be a child of God, a member of the chosen people simply by who your parents were. It was open. The scripture is a reminder that no one else can make the choice for us. No other human being can decide whether or not you and I are children of God. And that is incredibly important. It's an important reminder today. Because we live in a time where so many people out there want to tell you who is and isn't a child of God. They want to tell you that they know what does and doesn't give you the right to call yourself a Christian. It goes even further. There is a growing movement even in our own nation of people who want to say that a Christian woman isn't really a good Christian woman unless a Christian man is telling her what to do, or what to believe, or what to say, or what to think. But unless I read that scripture wrong, it says that a husband's will does not get to decide who is and isn't a child of God. Would someone please go and fetch the fire extinguisher for when I'm burnt at the stake later? You and I have to decide for ourselves who we belong to, what vision we will serve. That choice does not fall on others. No one else gets to make the call for me or for you. No, our God is a loving God who wants the relationship, the closeness, the connection, who is reaching out to us. We are reminded on Epiphany Sunday of 3 special travelers who were of a very different background from Mary and her child, and Joseph, his adopted father, who had taken him as his own son. These men were foreigners who came to pay tribute, who came to honor, who came to show appreciation. And as important as their symbolic, as important as the symbolic nature of their gifts were and what they represented, perhaps even more important is the nationality of the visitors themselves, their background, everything that made them different than the people around the child. The one that they came to honor was going to usher in a time when people of very different backgrounds would be welcome at God's table. We honor that today as we, who are very different, even from each other, and we who know that across the world there are so many of very different backgrounds who have found a place at that table. So we honor this as we meet in fellowship at the Lord's table and partake in Holy Communion.